Seriously, this is so revealing. Donald Trump, right, is on the rampage. In his quest to illegally annex Greenland, which he is determined to do, he has now viciously turned on British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, whose strategy of appeasement has been completely humiliated. Trump has now denounced the deal struck by Britain over the Chagos Islands as an act of great stupidity, as he puts it. The same deal that Donald Trump officially backed. Straightforward revenge, because Britain has done literally the bare minimum, oppose a proposed act of illegal aggression by the United States against an ally, Denmark. And do you know what? All of this has exposed the right-wing so-called patriots who are now lining up behind a hostile foreign leader waging economic war against their nation and who is seeking to damage their nation in any other way, despite their government sucking up to that leader, just because Britain won't support Donald Trump illegally annexing Greenland against his will. We're going to come on to that. Let me just read what that unhinged far-right demagogue occupying the White House had to say. Shockingly, our, in inverted quotes, brilliant NATO ally, the United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, the site of a vital US military base to Mauritius, and to do so for no reason whatsoever in capitals. There is no doubt that China and Russia have noticed his act of total weakness. These are international powers who only recognize strength, which is why the United States of America, under my leadership, is now, after only 1 year, respected like never before. That's definitely what's happened, Donald. Woo! You got respect for the US coming out your ears. The UK giving away extremely important land is an act of great stupidity and is another in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. Denmark and its European allies have to do the right thing. Sorry, he's capitalizing this. I'm just trying to, convey the spirit. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So after all that sucking up by Keir Starmer, including a speech yesterday when Starmer committed to doing absolutely nothing, zilch, zero, in response to Donald Trump proposing tariffs reaching 25% on British goods because of Trump's illegal Greenland plans to invade Greenland. Tariffs which threaten to plunge Britain into recession, devastating jobs, devastating living standards. Straightforward economic warfare. I'll come on to what this says, well, what this means in terms of his theory on the global order. Let's put it that way. First, here was Trump when Keir Starmer travelled all the way to the White House to suck up to him.
Keir Starmer has signed the deal to give away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. Will you approve that deal?
Well, we're going to have some discussions about that very soon, and I have a feeling it's going to work out very well. They're talking about a very long-term, powerful lease, a very strong lease, about 140 years, actually. That's a long time. And I think we'll be inclined to go along with your country. Yeah.
If that's not clear enough for you, on the 22nd of May 2025, the US State Department released a press statement affirming its support for the deal, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The headline was US support for UK and Mauritius agreement on Chagos Archipelago. It reads as follows. Today, the United States welcomed the historic agreement between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Mauritius on the future of the British Indian Ocean Territory, specifically the Chagos Archipelago. We commend both the United Kingdom and Mauritius for their leadership, vision, and commitment to ensure that Diego Garcia remains fully operational for the duration of this agreement. We look forward to working closely with both governments to strengthen our collaboration and support of regional peace and stability. Diego Garcia there being the military base. What is the truth about what happened with the Chagos Islands? In 1965, the British government unilaterally detached Chagos from Mauritius, which had been colonized by the British. It then forcibly displaced the people of the Chagos Islands from their own home so that Britain could build a military base which would be made available to US forces. This is the crime of forced displacement. It's known in today's parlance as ethnic cleansing. It is a terrible crime, and those who wrap themselves in the Union Jack and define their Britishness by pride in the hideous crimes our elites have committed against other people around the world are just morally repulsive. I think we should just say it as it is. At the time, a senior official at the Foreign Office called Sir Paul Gore Booth wrote to a diplomat named Dennis Greenhill saying, "We must surely be very tough about this. The object of the exercise is to get some rocks, which will remain ours. There will be no indigenous population, except seagulls." The diplomat responded, "Unfortunately, along with the birds go some few Tarzans or Man Fridays, whose origins are obscure and who are hopefully being wished onto Mauritius." Just grotesque racism. If you don't feel shame about that, if that somehow makes you feel proud to be British, you have no soul. You have no humanity. Sometimes it's just better to be blunt. Now, the International Court of Justice, the highest court on earth, ruled that this separation was contrary to the right of national self-determination, and Mauritius's decolonisation was not lawfully completed. The court ruled Britain had no sovereignty over the islands in 2021. It was illegal, contrary to international law, for Britain to retain possession of islands it had stolen and ethnically cleansed. The last Conservative government accepted it was legally and diplomatically not tenable to retain these islands, so opened sovereignty talks with Mauritius with the aim of retaining the military base. The deal struck meant that Britain ceded its illegal control of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius while maintaining the military base with a 99-year lease, paying £101 million a year to do so. As ITV reported in 2024, official sources tell me the transfer would have happened in materially the same way, at roughly the same time, if Rishi Sunak had somehow won the election. The outrage over all of this is horseshit. You are being lied to. You are being manipulated. Now let's talk about a great British patriot, shall we? Like Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party. She says, "Paying to surrender the Chagos Islands is not just an act of stupidity, but of complete self-sabotage. I've been clear, and unfortunately on this issue, President Trump is right. Keir Starmer's plan to give away the Chagos Islands is a terrible policy that weakens UK security and hands away our sovereign territory, and to top it off, makes us and our NATO allies weaker in face of our enemies." Last night, I met Speaker Johnson, and we are united in that view. Britain's and America's interests align. Keir Starmer has the chance to change course in Chagos. Conservatives call on President Trump to reconsider Greenland too. You are something else, Kemi. The government in which you served laid the foundations for this deal, because even that government, your government, understood it was not tenable for Britain to continue its illegal occupation of the Chagos Islands. And now you're lining up behind Donald Trump as he seeks to wreck your country because he wants to go on a deranged conquering spree. Tacking on the call on Trump to reconsider Greenland too at the end doesn't fool anyone. And besides, if you took that position in government, bearing in mind Starmer has already positioned himself halfway up Trump's backside, then he'd be at war with you as well. Pathetic. And then there's Donald Trump's BBF Nigel Farage, who says, "Thank goodness Trump has vetoed the surrender of the Chagos Islands." Your beloved icon, Mr. Farage, is determined to inflict severe damage on the country you purport to be a champion of because he wants to illegally conquer Greenland, the front of these people. It must never be forgotten. These so-called patriots have lined up behind a foreign hostile leader waging war against their own country. Here's another example from big old patriotic channel GB News.
This tariff is a massive slapdown for the globalists from President Trump just 24 hours, and I don't think it's a coincidence, 24 hours after Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, probably the biggest globalist in the world, the former Bank of England governor, who went to China, cozied up to President Xi and hailed China as a more reliable partner than the United States. And also, by the way, muttering absolute nonsense about a new world order with Canada and China leading the way. So you've got the new world order stuff, you've got Mark Carney cozying up to the commies in China. Commies are going to commie, eh? And then 24 hours later, President Trump says, do you know what? I'm not having this. You've got the liabilities in Europe sending 1 or 2 troops to Greenland for reasons, as he describes, unknown. You've got Mark Carney going to China to cozy up to the commies there. I'm going to slap you guys with a 10% tariff. I've been long of the argument, Alex, listeners and viewers, that President Trump, for some of his faults and his bluster, and he's not perfect, I'm not saying that, but to me it seems like he is the only person in the West at the moment trying to save the West from themselves.
Speechless. Absolutely speechless. Donald Trump waging economic war against the US's supposed key allies because he wants to invade and annex Greenland means he's trying to save the West from himself. he's not the only GB News commentator doing this. Others are doing it too. One says it shows Trump's strength on the world stage. Let's be clear. GB News is actively cheering on a hostile foreign power trying to wreck the British economy, to wreck British jobs, to wreck British living standards, because he wants to illegally conquer territory against the will of its people. There is no coming back for these people. These people on the right are the sort of people who accuse us on the left of hating their own country and being unpatriotic because we believe in terrible things like redistributing wealth and power away from elites in favor of the average Briton. And because we oppose, for example, selling weapons to a foreign state to commit genocide. We've also falsely been repeatedly smeared as stooges of, for example, the Iranian regime because we oppose yet more catastrophic Western military intervention. But these people are actually stooges of a hostile foreign power. They're actually supporting the damage being inflicted against their own people by that foreign power. As the saying goes, every accusation is a confession. Now, what about the future of the world? Well, there's a lot more to say about this, but for those who are saying this has buried the West's rules-based order, you're not being honest. Let's not pretend this all started with Trump. Maybe remember the illegal invasion of Iraq, which Britain participated in. Maybe see how Western states like the US and Britain facilitated and armed Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people as Israel committed every war crime and crime against humanity there is to commit. Trump is merely taking the West's destruction of the so-called rules-based order to its logical conclusion. He isn't pretending anymore. And other countries have noted this and they're acting upon it. Listen to this from the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
Well, it would seem that the world order the West is happy with should be based on these rules, but these rules have been basically struck out right now. It's the law of the strongest.
Have no doubt. Russia committed and is committing a terrible crime with its illegal invasion of Ukraine. It knows, though, that the West has contempt for international law, and that has legitimized its own behavior. Now, as I keep mentioning, I'm finishing a book called The Fall of the West, that'll be out later this year, which tries to explain how we got here. The question is, what comes next? We need to build a world of justice and equality and peace, because right now the West is falling all right, but it's falling in favor of bloody mayhem, of regional great powers throwing their weight around in favor of spheres of influence and naked authoritarianism. We all deserve so much better. Please like and subscribe, like and subscribe, and help us take on the dire media at patreon.com/Chagos84. You make all this possible. You share the video, leave your comments, share the video. I'll speak to you later.